Welcome back to 90 Seconds Plus with Invercargill City Mayor Nobby. So today we're going to talk about the big news this morning was the fire of the old Briscoe & Co building. So many will know it, well, like me, remember it as the Pormore Arcade downstairs. Yeah, a bit of a tragedy, but another old building's probably going to have to come down.
Yep. I'm not sure whether it's fixable or not. It's way too early yet. But it does raise some issue about the amount of buildings we've got in the city that have something on the ground floor, but have capacity for 2 floors above, but have nothing. And so we've been doing some work with the fire service anyway, and that building has recently been reviewed by us about how it complies with the different regulations we've got, and certainly it changes if you ever start putting people in there. Might be residential in there that lifts the bar up again. But a bit sad to hear that there's been some casualties in that, and I'm going to by casualties, some people burnt. One young girl, I understand. So that's a bit sad. From what I understand, they were able to be there, so it's not as though they were sort of, whatever you call it. They're not gate crashing it and doing what they shouldn't be doing. So it's a bit sad, and the building is pretty well damaged. The water damage in particular is significant. Yep. But if they do upgrade it, well, we might get a lick of paint on it, which would be a good thing.
There you go. It does need that.
Because that's one of the issues that we've looked at, people aren't aware of. In the last couple of years, I've pushed pretty hard to get some of the facades around town, which are the fronts of the shops, upgraded. Some of them don't look good. There's been a debate within council about whether we should put ratepayer money into freshening up buildings that are owned by private building owners. It's always been my view that we should, because they can't afford to do it themselves, some of them, and it's our city. If we want it to look good, it's no good having a row of 10 buildings and 2 of them look bloody terrible. If they're like that, it degrades your city. So I'm pleased that we've committed $200,000 in the next year and for the 2 following years. I'm hoping I'll fast track that. It won't take us 3 years to do it, so we'll get some cherry picker out in the spring, which isn't too far away, water blast some buildings, and then subsequently paint them in historical colours. And I think that will really sharpen up the areas of D and Tay Street in particular.
A good example of that would be the Grand Hotel now looks fabulous with a new coat of paint, and it looks really good actually. It's just livened it up, and particularly now because you got the Langlands and you got D Street. We're looking really good now with the Langlands, the 25 Esk Street, the tower.
So how good would you look with that? With a good flick of paint, eh?
Good paint.
You can get some of that roughage off you.
Yeah, well, unlike some people, not knowing anyone, they don't need some penal beating.
You don't. Yeah.
And the other topic we're going to discuss is obviously an update on the CCTV. Now that's going to go out, part of it's going to go out for public consultation, and you can explain a bit more about that.
Sure. So there's 2 parts of having CCTVs. One is the database that you need, the software to run it, and the cameras themselves. That will start to be implemented at the end of this year, so in December, and it's staged across the city, so potentially 200 or 300 cameras. So CBD first, obviously, because Christmas time is high traffic time, and we don't want to discourage crime. That's not our role, it's the police role. Our job is to make sure that people that are in the inner city are safe, and their well-being safeguarded. So that's our focus. What we're going out to discuss with the community is the policy around it. So this is a very, very, very complex area when you start gathering private information on people. So for argument's sake, I might take a video, or our cameras might show your cameraman Robbie here down here being assaulted. So that's something that the police and us would want to know about. But while I'm taking that, I see that you're staggering out of a pub, or you're standing up urinating in the corner, or whatever. And so a lot of this information overlaps. How long you keep it for is important, given that some crimes have no statutory limit. So if you saw somebody being murdered and you needed the evidence, could you keep it for 50 years? Potentially. And who keeps it? So if we gather it and then the police use it, it's still our information. So we've got a lot of very complex laws around the Privacy Act, and making sure that people don't feel that Big Brother's watching them, because I know some people have conspiracy theories around that.
It's getting that balance right.
It is. And so it's not about preventing or detecting crime. That's only a side effect. The key issue is that people feel safe. And so feeling safe means that it discourages people from doing things because the cameras are watching. And so there's a balance between that. Some people don't like cameras, but I think majority would feel much better with it.
Yeah.
So the consultations on the policy documents, there are 2 of them.
Yeah.
So they're very complex areas. But the cameras are still going in. That doesn't mean we're ignoring what people give us feedback on, because the policy is still a policy.
Yeah.
It's just the way they operate, that's the key. So, yep, it's coming, and glad that we'll start at the end of the year, because it needs to be done.
Oh, that's right, because
We've been talking about this for 5 or 6 years. And look, it doesn't matter how many you put in, there's always somebody who wants it closer to them that you can actually put in, but we're investing a significant amount of money, which makes our community far more safer.
And the other topic that's coming about is what to do or what's happening with Wachner Place.
That's interesting. We've got to have a linkage between our inner city, which is no longer Wachner Place.
Yeah.
Wachner Place to me has no intrinsic value at all.
Exactly.
I've watched and watched and watched.
Yep.
People sitting there, doesn't happen.
No.
The guys preaching every lunchtime have actually moved into East Street.
Yeah.
People that go to the food eateries there tend to eat on site, on their site, or they take it away and go home.
Yeah.
So there's nothing there. At best, it's a wind shelter,
Yeah.
and that's all it is. We need to link through to the new museum, to the new hotel.
Yeah.
It's really important that they have a good linkage back through to S Street, which is where they want them to come. So we're going to do some major work there. We're going to consult on some options, and one of the options we'll be consulting on involves some ability of buses to go through Wachner Place as it is at the moment, and a redesign of Wachner. And pretty reliable that the 4 pillars that are down there at the moment, which are a real eyesore, will go as well.
Yeah.
So, but that's going out to consultation very soon,
Yeah.
because we need to make a commitment to the building owner there that we are going to enable him to come through into our inner city, because we definitely want to be a committee that a council that enables people to do things.
Yeah, especially because there's going to be hundreds of guests staying at the hotel. We want them flowing easily into the city and going to the bars, the restaurants, and the shopping. So it needs to be an easy, no thing in the way to block them, and nice and tidy. And the other thing is, the reality is, I've always said it for years, Wachner Place has never worked as a community space because you've got a double lane highway going between it and the other part of the city. So, and as you said, S Street now is the new place to be.
The other thing that we have to deal with is the issue of what is community play. Mm-hmm. You hear them talking about this all the time, and I can't get anybody to give me a definitive answer about that. Yeah. Community play means young children playing.
Yes.
If we're talking teenagers, there's nothing we can do in the city other than providing an e-sport venue where they can play on their computers. Yeah. Well, that's the only enticement we have, and we're looking at some initiatives around that. I wouldn't personally put a play space in Wachner, given it's on an arterial road. Yeah. I think there are a whole lots of safety issues there. Definitely. While we might put a water feature in there or something like that, because kids like water, there are issues around that as well.
True. Safety
issues around that. If you get the water too deep, then you get somebody drowning. Yeah. So we've got to take a lot of great care about how we design it. But we are doing some design work, and we will be out to consultation shortly to the community to give them 2 or 3 options of what we want to do. We've had some discussions internally with it on council. Council's very divided on the options. Mm-hmm. Very divided. So we're definitely looking for, don't have a fixed position, and we're definitely looking for community feedback on that. I'm yet to be convinced that removing the clock and the base around the clock will create a wind tunnel. Yeah. But at home I get an earful every day when I discuss that with you-know-who.
Oh, right.
She's adamant about it.
It needs to go, and that clock's only right twice a day.
Yeah. And look, the other thing is I worked for about 15 years in an amenities building. Yeah. Sure, it's cold. Yeah. But S Street at the moment is cold some days, and you walk under the verandas to get into the mall, and you stay in the mall. Yep. So I'm not convinced of the wind retention as being an issue. I think we need to open up Wachner and make it similar to S Street with the same sort of seating, but allow the buses to go the right way through. But I've got opposition to that, so we'll just see where that pans out, and see what the community has to say to us about retaining what's currently there or not.
Well, good. We'll look forward to working with council and getting that information out so that the public can actually have a good say, because I think it's important. The more people know about it and they can have their 2 cents worth, the better.
We can listen to 100 people and still ignore most of them. Yeah. We have that mechanism. So one of the things about being an elected member is sometimes you don't just listen to the squeaky doors that come forward. But having said that, where would you be with a museum at the moment if we would listen to the public, because I can recall back 3 or 4 years ago that about 70 or 80% of the community feedback was just fix the old museum and don't go down it. And I think once we've got that new museum in place, 2.5 years from now, people will realise that the decision we made, which wasn't the most popular decision, will end up with something that we'll feel benefit of for 40 or 50 years. It'll be spectacular.
Same with the naysayers of the city development. Invercargill Central was a lot of naysayers and negative initially of that. But if you look at what we've got now, we've got a beautiful asset for a community, and it's sort of the new hub for the senior city. Well, that's another 90 Seconds Plus with Invercargill City Mayor Nobby Clark. Until next week, see you later.